In today's video, we're going to be breaking down why the upcoming winter of 2024 to 2025 is going to be different than not only the previous winter that we just had in very many ways, but also the last multiple winters. So we're going to be comparing a lot of different winters today and just talking about the differences. And also we'll be talking about the tropics a little bit at the end of this video, so stay tuned for it, kind of just as a bonus. But let's dive into things. And first things first, I mean, a lot of you probably already know what this is, but we have our El Nino or La Nina. That's our ENSO or El Nino Southern Oscillation. And there's two phases, the El Nino and La Nina, and they're exactly the opposite. In an El Nino, we have warmer waters across the equatorial Pacific, and in a La Nina, we have colder waters across these regions of the Pacific, and they lead towards very many different impacts worldwide, and including a ton over the United States, and that's mostly obviously what we're going to be talking about today. So here is kind of the history of a lot of our El Nino Southern Oscillation. We see that towards the top, we have some of our strongest El Ninos. So we have the El Nino of 91 to 92, 94, 95, 97, 98, 2002 to 2003, 2009 to 2010, and then the Super El Nino 2015 to 2016, and we also had a very, very strong one here this previous year of 2023. So we've had a lot of strong El Ninos there. Obviously, we're not expected to even be in an El Nino, so it's pretty irrelevant. We have had some stronger La Ninas like 95 to 96, 98, 99, then 99 to 2000, 07, 08, 2010 to 2011, 2011 to 2012 as well. So you can see these La Ninas tend to be a little bit more common to see back to back. You might pick up on that. So we've seen it from 98 to 99, and then the following 99 to 2000. Also 2010 to 2011, and then 11 to 12 here. And then finally 2020 to 21. Also for 22 to 23, we saw this La Nina. So this was almost a 3-year La Nina here that we had more recently, which has almost never happened before. Now the differences is really gonna come as far as like how strong it is. So we see a lot of these stronger La Ninas actually featured some pretty mild winters, I would say. 2010 to 2011 is the only one that really jumps off the screen here as a pretty impactful and cold winter. The rest of these are rather warm for the most part. There's probably a couple in here that are maybe, more normal or below normal, but for the most part, most of those were mild. And same things here with the stronger El Ninos. So a lot of these stronger El Ninos were also quite weak, mild winters. Outside of this 09-10 winter as well here, this is a good example of a very cold and snowy one. So really where you're going to find a lot of your coldest and snowiest winters is in the middle here, in your what we call La Nada. So that's going to be basically neither. So between negative 0.5 and 0.5 here is going to be the sweet spot for a neutral ENSO is what we would call it. And that tends to bring the coldest and snowiest winters oftentimes. A lot of your winters that we had more recently that were very good would be like the 13 and 14 winters here. They fell under a neutral ENSO, for instance, and they were kind of on the colder side of a neutral ENSO. Not that it's too far off. I mean, anywhere in here is going to be a good place to be, and those were a few good winters that we had in a row there. So let's see what we're forecasted to be as far as the ENSO is concerned. And what we end up seeing here is that we're currently weakening out of our El Nino, our very strong El Nino that we just had last winter. So last winter was a very strong El Nino. And we're descending down. The one you're going to want to really pay attention to here is the DJF. And what we see is that we're expected to be right in this sweet spot. The kind of mean average line is going to be that red one. So right about here is where we're expecting to be. And that's going to be less than a degree below average there for your ENSO region, and just below your neutral ENSO line. So it's very close to being what we saw in those 2013 to 2014 and 2014 to 2015 winters. Very, very close, not too far off. I certainly think that there is a chance that we see some pretty nice winters like that. I think it might have been the 2012 to 2013 and then 2013 to 2014, something like that. It was 2 or 3 of those winters in there that were very cold and very snowy, and those are some of the more recent actual cold winters that we've had, believe it or not. so almost 10 or over 10 years ago at this point. So we're looking to potentially land in that sweet spot. You know, a stronger El Nino or a moderate El Nino would be somewhere in here. Stronger would be lowering a little bit below that. And then your weaker La Nina to even neutral ENSO is right about where we're expected to be in here. I definitely think that this could be enough to really swing us in the colder and snowier direction here. So let's take a look at some precipitation maps here as I kind of scroll it down and get us where we need to be. But what's interesting in La Ninas and El Ninos is we kind of just compare these things. You know, we see above average precipitation oftentimes in these La Nina winters here. We oftentimes have a storm track riding along your northern jet just like this, and this does tend to bring above average precipitation through these areas. On the other hand, during La Ninas, we oftentimes see below average precipitation throughout the southwest, south central, and southeastern states, and we do see that here as well for December of 2024, according to this CFS model. So let's take a look here at January. We do see a little bit of above average precipitation trend in here, but by February we return to this classic La Nina look with, again, the below average precipitation in the south for the most part, and then above average precipitation throughout the northwest, diving southward into the Midwest, and then back up through the Great Lakes. Very, very classic look. So I wanted to kind of point this out and talk a little bit about the precipitation as well. During the La Nina, a lot of these models are bringing us into a classic La Nina precipitation pattern here. Now, we're expected to be in the opposite of basically, not necessarily the temperature map, but in a minute we'll take a look at the precipitation and overall forecasts from last year's very early look at our El Nino winter kind of overview. So what to expect in an El Nino winter. I think that this temperature map could look similar. I think something to consider here is likely you would be looking at the cold a little bit more west-based. So something like this, colder in the northwest, across the plains, and then even the Midwest as well. Warmer across the southwest and the southeast potentially would be something to watch for. We see southeast ridges a lot. Also, the southwest can be that way as well, with the drier conditions without the storm track here. So we're going to X that out. No storm track moving through there. You expect sunnier conditions and warmer conditions across the south like this. I would say the colder area would be back west in a La Nina. We are going to be recreating these maps for La Ninas for you guys and kind of doing a contrast. Again, here was our El Nino map last year. Expect about the opposite of this, as we talked about a second ago, as the storm track is likely to move through these areas. And basically, we're going to get nothing for the southwest, south central, and southeastern states. About the opposite of this map here is what you can expect in a La Nina, as this was our El Nino forecast. And then basically our overall forecast for that was more storms in the southwest, which would be this year probably less storms. So that's what you can expect in a La Nina year. And then we saw more dry for the northwest, and this would be less dry in this case during a La Nina. So opposite. Perhaps colder for a lot of these areas, so I'll keep that the same. But nor'easters, you know, you do see a couple during La Ninas. I think that's an interesting thing to note. We have seen these before in these types of winters, especially 2010 to 2011 comes to mind, where we had that Boxing Day blizzard. That was a nor'easter. But it is to be noted that you do historically see a lot less of them in these La Nina winters. So I want everybody to note that. Typically, we can expect a lot more inland storms to impact these areas, and even the East Coast, but they're going to be more inland-based storms. They could go out to sea, but they're not going to be your traditional nor'easters heading all the way up the coast, typically. So keep all of those things in mind. Let's take a look at our tropical system here. Here's Alberto, our first named storm. I just wanted to point it out. The satellite's all jacked up here, but it was a pretty impactful system still for central Mexico here, as you can see. I think it's worth mentioning because it is our first named storm here in June, as we expect a historic hurricane season this year. This is definitely starting out on that type of note. Just seeing a named storm so early puts us in the proper position to potentially rival that 2020 named storm record year. So definitely getting off on an interesting note, having our first named storm in June. Here is kind of that final remnants of Alberto outlook that they put out today from the National Hurricane Center. So nothing really expected to come of this. It is interesting to note, I was seeing this earlier, that a lot of these spaghetti models do take it offshore back into the Pacific here over the next 48 hours. However, our intensity models really just drop this one off, and we don't see any sort of rebound on most of these, so I don't expect this to redevelop despite moving over the Pacific Ocean. Anyway, I know this video was all over the place. I wanted to kind of talk about the winter as we've been kind of discussing it recently, the fall and winter. I had a lot of comments on our previous video talking about, last winter's been so warm and the one before it, and why is this winter going to be any different, basically was the gist of the comments. And I wanted to put out a video discussing exactly that, why this winter's going to be nearly the opposite in many cases of the previous few winters because of the La Nina versus El Nino forecast. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe as we do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.